Court is in session in cause number 317184. The case is styled the State of Texas versus Ronald D. Banks or Ronald Dean Banks. Mr. Banks, is that your full name?
Yes, sir. Your Honor.
Mr. Banks, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Banks, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Banks, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Banks?
Just fine, sir.
That's good, Mr. Banks. I have before me a document that is titled Information. This information alleges that on or about August 3rd of 2017, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed to Class A misdemeanor offense of discharge of firearm in certain municipalities. Mr. Banks, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir. Your Honor.
And to this charge, Mr. Banks, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Now, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Banks, are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
I'm pleading guilty because I'm guilty, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Banks, I have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. On page 2 of this document, there are a set of initials, R or B, on a line next to a box that's checked guilty. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 3 of this same document, there is a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Mr. Banks, did you sign this document?
Yes, sir. Your Honor.
On the next document, which is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, there is a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Did you also sign this document?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Banks, at the top of this document, there are 2 boxes that are checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you are giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Banks, did you sign a document out there on paper that is titled Discovery Certification?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Banks, before you signed and initialed all of these documents that I have just mentioned to you, did your attorney, Mr. LeBlanc, go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything that Mr. LeBlanc went over?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit Number 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any
We have no objections, Your Honor.
No objections. State's Exhibit Number 1 will be admitted. Mr. LeBlanc, you've advised and counseled Mr. Banks. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
None that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
Mr. Banks, your attorney, Mr. LeBlanc, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir. Your Honor.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir. Your Honor.
Mr. Banks, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given, and I'll also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
The 61 days county jail.
61 days?
Or maybe we had 60. I'm sorry, 60 days, Your Honor.
Okay, okay, what about credit? Any credit for time that he's getting?
I know he has approximately, I think, 41 days.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I see here on the judgment. Okay.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Mr. Banks, the state is offering that you serve 60 days in the Jefferson County Jail. You will be given credit for 41 days. The court cost in this case is $327. Mr. Banks, will you be able to pay the 327 hours court costs before you get out?
No, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, now, Mr. Banks, I have before me a document that is titled Affidavit of Indigence. And it has your name on it, Ronald D. Banks. And this document was signed on January 3rd of 2022. Where you said it has a signature on the line that's above. There's a line that's titled Defendant's Signature that was signed on January 2nd of 2021. Mr. Banks, did you sign this document?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, Mr. Banks, is everything in this document still true and correct today? With regard,
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Banks, based on your affidavit of indigency, the finding of the magistrate stating that you were indigent and that you met the eligibility requirements, this court will find that you're indigent as well. And what that basically means, Mr. Banks, is that the court cost of $327, you would not have to pay it because the court will be waiving that court cost pursuant to Article 42.15 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, because the court has found that you are indigent. And so based on that finding, you will not be required to pay the court costs. However, you'll be required to, you'll be given, your sentence is 60 days in jail with credit for 41. Mr. Banks, do you understand the state's offer and the court's waiver of the court costs?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
And do you think that is fair and just?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
And do you accept it?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Banks, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement with the waivers that the court has made in this case pursuant to Article 42.15 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. This will conclude your case, Mr. Banks. You can knock on that door, follow the bailiff. You're free to go, and you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. Thank
Good luck.
you.
Good luck, man. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, you're welcome, Mr. LeBlanc.